Everybody, this is Jim at SP500chart.com. It is about 4:45, April 22nd, 2013. We're going to take a look at what happened today. Pretty much what we thought, but we'll take a look at it anyway. Before I do so, I need to remind you that the website and the video are for educational purposes only, and nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. I can draw lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. And just as a reminder, again, I am not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy that draws lines on charts. Here we are looking at an hourly chart of the S&P, and you can see that here is our here is our yellow line that broke down last week, and already this week we have back tested that line. So the question is, as it is always, is it possible for the S&P to get back above this line? Yeah, sure, and but it's not the probable thing, and that kind of brings up one of the things that I want to mention here is we're not talking about certainties when we do this. We're only talking about probabilities. Now, personally, I would like to see the S&P rally up to 1570, even 1572, because if we got up to that level up here, then that could be a good spot to assume that that we are forming a head and shoulders pattern here, but that we also would not make a right shoulder that would be any higher than the left shoulder, because our neckline is almost exactly horizontal. So, are there any other possibilities? Well, certainly. We had a double left shoulder. It is possible we could end up with a double head. And that would mean the S&P rallying up again to the 1590s. That's a possibility. But I think it's not the most likely thing to take place. So, this is what happened. Let's take a look at a 15-minute chart. I mentioned that there was a resistance line that the S&P stopped right at the end of the day on Friday of last week. And based upon the fact that we were expecting support at 1540 or very close to 1540, having ended the week right there, it just seemed like that was probably a good indication that this line would break, and lo and behold, it did break. And if we put this line exactly where it needs to go, you can see how neatly it held as resistance. Again, remember, a rising line of support, once broken, has a strong tendency to turn into resistance. Now, you may be looking at this chart and thinking to yourselves, is it possible that we may be forming a small little head and shoulders down here? Well, yeah, that's a possibility. And if it is the case, we would have a neckline that would look something like this, though it's not a perfect pattern. But just for the heck of it, since we're over this line now, let's pretend like this is an inverted head and shoulders pattern, and let's see where it takes us. Well, it would take us up to the low 1570s. So let's just kind of maybe keep that in mind going into the next couple of days to see if this small pattern here can rally, can serve as the base or the mechanics to rally the S&P up to the 1570s again, where if it comes up to that level, then I would think that might be a good spot to speculate on a short position. And again, just to remind you, the whole thesis here that I'm thinking of is that we are forming a top here, because we have broken this rising support line that lasted it's getting all out of whack here, but it lasted since the middle of November. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, almost, well, no, we have 5 months of gains without any real significant sell-off. And I'm just thinking that with the breaking of this line, each time this has happened in the S&P over the past 4 years, and we can go to a 3-day chart and we can look at each of these times we've entered a nice rally off of a significant little bottom pattern. And each one of these bottom patterns, by the way, has been an inverted head and shoulders. And each of the tops has been a head and shoulders top. So I think we may be making that head and shoulders top right here. And if that does happen, then we would be looking at a trip down to under 1,500 coming up probably this summer. So guys, I think that's about all I really need to say for now. We should look upon this line and expect it to be resistance. So it's quite possible that we sell back tomorrow or over the next couple of days, and then we maybe rally back for that tag at in the low to mid 1570s. But I'm still, like I said, still looking at this as looking toppish or toppy. And when we consider the fact that we are also up in coming up to our interesting little arrow up here, which I don't believe in old wives' tales, but I'll be honest with you, you should have believed in them for the past 3 years. So I'm going to say, let's stick with that, with the old adage, sell in May and go away. I don't know exactly when this top will be in. It may already be in. That 1597 might be the top. We may even look back on that 1597 and see it as being something close to one of these other very significant tops in the S&P. But again, we're not quite there yet. If this blue line breaks, then I'm thinking, yeah, we're probably there, or at least that should be the first indication. Then if this red line breaks, that would be the next indication. So I guess what I'm saying is, I don't want to call a top just based upon the fact that we reached this line and that one thing alone. I would rather call this a top based upon a confirmed pattern that says there's your top. And I know that means you give up some of the trading room in doing that, but the good news is that this would be a large enough pattern from what formed from early March until, let's say, first 2 weeks or so of May, if this is what we end up with. The good news is that's 55 points high. That's worth playing. And if we end up with an even larger head and shoulders pattern that would go back to the beginning of the year, where this would be the left shoulder, this would be the head, and then we would form another right shoulder, you get the picture. So guys, thanks for watching the video. Let's see if the S&P can get over this line, but I would not expect it to, because this is broken support. It should now serve as resistance. And if this is a little head and shoulders pattern that we're dealing with down underneath us here, then this line should serve as some support. I don't think it'll hold, because I do believe we are likely making that at least that smaller head and shoulders pattern. Hey, thanks for watching. Let's see what the rest of this week brings us. Take care.